All right, now we're getting to the good stuff. We're going to talk about spying on power sellers. See, this takes curiosity. It takes kind of an inquisitive mind. It takes a curious mind, and it takes a mind that's willing to dig a little, do a little more research, dig a little. When I go to flea markets, for example, I grew up selling at flea markets as a kid, so I know how to dig through boxes to find the good stuff. You see, by digging a little extra, you go below the surface and you start to find the goodies. Most people are not willing to or haven't been trained to dig just a little further below the surface. That's where you're going to find the goodies. So be sure that you have this curious, inquisitive mind as you're doing this, because that curiosity is going to take you a long way as you do your research on power sellers. By doing completed listing searches on hot products, you're going to often find sellers who have a high feedback rating or who are selling a lot of product. Here are some steps to take when you find these power sellers. By spying on high-level sellers, you can easily find their top-selling products. It's really simple, and in a bit, I'll show you how you can often find their product sources as well. So let's go to a demo video where I'm going to walk you through exactly how to do this. Now this is actually a video that I'm going to narrate over. I did the video basically silent, and now I'm going to narrate over it. I went to this particular person's page because FX Toys is known within the collectible toy world as a real high-level seller. They sell a ton of very rare, very collectible toys. The way they get their toys, the way they source these rare and hard-to-find items is through something called buying events. I mentioned buying events in my Auctions for Income book and DVD set that's available on my website at daveespino.com. A buying event is set up typically months in advance, and what these people do, what this particular company does, is they get all kinds of advance publicity for their buying event. Their buying event it's a lot like an Antiques Roadshow, if you've ever seen that TV show. It's a lot like an Antiques Roadshow type of setup, where people bring in their collectible toys, and these people evaluate the toys and determine how much they're willing to pay for the toys. If they make a deal, they issue a check right there on the spot for the toys. And so what these people do is they basically go from town to town to town. They get all kinds of advanced publicity on the radio, on newspaper ads and things like that, and they have people bringing their collectible toys to them at these events. These events are typically held at hotels and in hotel ballrooms and things like that. I've actually held a buying event once, and it was a very interesting opportunity. You have to have a lot of money on hand. You have to be ready to be able to buy just about any type of collection. So it's a very interesting setup, and these people buy tons and tons and tons of rare toys in this way. So let me show you how we would research a seller like this and the kinds of things that you want to do to dig a little deeper, dig below the surface, and find out a particular seller's sources. Now here I already told you their source, so we're not doing this in order to find their source, but we are going to do this as an example to show you how you might research a top-level seller. So what you do here, you see that this person has a very high feedback rating. Click on See Other Items. That's going to take you to all their items on eBay. Now what you want to do is scroll over to the left and scroll down and click on Completed Listings. When you click on Completed Listings, it's going to show you all the listings that this seller has had, I believe, over the last 14 or 15 days. Then you want to sort by highest price first, as we see here. And notice the highest prices on some of these items, $7,600, $6,600 for an original poster, Disneyland poster. And as we scroll down, you get to see the amazing variety and, especially in this case, the high dollar values of some of these collectible toys. By doing this, you can see exactly what they're selling, and you can also see often the items that they've sold the most of, if they're selling a lot of a particular item. Once you find out that they're selling a lot of one particular item, you can then dig a little deeper and start to see what type of item it is, how often they're selling it, how many times they're selling it, how many of those they sell a month. And at that point, you may then want to put on your detective hat and do some of the techniques I'm going to show you a little later in this course to find that person's source of the product. Okay, it's going to get very exciting. Now, the reason I paused the video here is as I was doing this video, I noticed this car. It's a pretty rare vintage Hot Wheels car called a Heavy Chevy. It's technically a Camaro, and it's in lime green. What makes this car rare is that the original production color was yellow. It was a nice bright yellow. And they only made a few in this alternate color, as it's called, of light green. Now what happened basically is on the production line at Mattel, they had a certain purchase order or a certain order of the number of cars they wanted to do. But basically they ran out of yellow paint. So when they ran out of the yellow paint, they just started to run these cars through a different color. And this turned out to be the, quote, alternate color. Well, what that does is it makes these lime green ones very rare because they made less of them in this color. So notice that this particular vintage Hot Wheels car, again, this is my business, right, on eBay. This one sold for $930. Well, the reason I stopped the video here is because this particular model is near and dear to my heart. When I first discovered eBay, I got so excited about it, but we didn't have a top-of-the-line computer. We just had just a very basic computer, and the computer was not even connected to the internet back then. We're talking 1998. Okay, so I wanted to get a really high-quality computer in order to start my eBay business. And what I did was I had a friend of mine sell my alternate color green Heavy Chevy, a car just like this one. He sold it for me on eBay, and we ended up getting $847 for that car. And that car, along with some other money, is what we used to buy my first computer that was going to be, you know, my main eBay computer. So that's why I wanted to stop here and just mention that. This is the exact same model car. And notice that it hasn't really appreciated much in that period of time. This one sold for $930 and mine sold for $847. So let's continue the video here. So this is how you can research a current top seller's items. Notice how many pages of items this seller has. And notice how you can research their completed listings, specifically their listings, so that you determine which of their items they're selling a lot of. That is a very powerful way to research some of the top sellers.